someone who's extremely good at their work in some type of specific knowledge, blockchain allows for like infinite collaboration with the people that are best in class. And you're able to give back value or even to like access their work super easily, permissionlessly, support their work.
Hi everyone, welcome to yet another episode of NewForum. We're always excited to bring you inspiring creators, visionaries, and investors to spark conversations on the new perspectives on the topics of crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, social 3.0, and DAOs. NewForum provides a safe space for thinkers to communicate, inform, and share ideas in order to ensure the conscious and ethical growth of a new web, embedding the values of care, freedom, and creativity. We have a super cool guest in this episode, Karl. He is an apparel, footwear, and accessory designer from Montreal.
Jeremy has a background in the fashion industry, working with brands such as Nike, Merrell, and Louis Vuitton. He has also created his own clothing DAO called Hibiscus DAO, and we're going to discuss his journey as a designer into the Web3 space, his own DAO, and also sustainability and how the fashion industry can evolve in terms of production, distribution, and craftsmanship. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Super excited.
So yeah, Jeremy, how did you begin your journey into fashion, and how did you craft such a unique and distinct style as a designer? What are your inspirations and influences?
I guess I'd say I just started from retail, like maybe like 15 years ago. I was working at a retail shop and then met some people within retail and got really deep into like the forum communities and like Tumblr. I started this like technical sportswear apparel Tumblr called TechSpec, which kind of like led me to, yeah, basically 13 years ago, that allowed me to get some of my first jobs within more like art direction, creative direction. And then I did like a traditional technical sportswear kind of like apprenticeship, you know, where I was like learning how to make a ski jackets and like waterproof shells by hand from like two old ladies in Montreal. So that's kind of like how I got like my basic skills. But really it's all about like the people who brought me up and like the people who allowed me to just work on amazing projects really early on. And then I just became committed and just really focused on technical sportswear and sportswear in general, just because there is longevity in it. And for me, it's like, no matter what happens, it's always going to rain and it's always going to be cold in some countries. And, you know, you need to always be protected from your environment. So let's make sure that's nice to wear and like easy to wear. You know, like I come from Montreal, where in the winter, everybody would just be wearing like a Canada Goose jacket, like the same jacket. And, you know, not all of us wanted to wear that style. So it was really nice to focus on developing new outdoor silhouettes. And now like traveling a lot more and being in LA, diving deeper into how to make that even more wearable and accessible.
That's quite interesting. You know, I feel like I've seen the last couple of years really this movement towards, you know, sportswear and technical wear, as you would say. And like you said, there's a huge aspect of that. You can wear it everywhere and anywhere, and it looks kind of good. And also the colors, like I see you use very like earthy tones and like really a lot of neutral colors, and more expressive within your style of design. And I think about brands like, I don't know, Elio de Mille and all these, you know, more minimal brands, but they have so much utility and expression still. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's where the future is going, kind of. Yeah,
it's very like trendy right now, and which is cool, but like it is forever in that sense, you know. Like I haven't worn like a pair of jeans in like 10 years, I think, you know, just because there's more comfortable trousers out there. And I think that's speaks for like all different types of pieces. And it's super fun to experiment with these materials, like comfort wise and like temperature regulation and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I can go for hours.
Yeah, your silhouettes are definitely fabulous. I checked your work on your Instagram page and I really loved it. And I also loved your background. I mean, as you're talking about your background, you spoke a lot about like internship, apprenticeship, which is most of the time, you know, when students graduate from fashion school, they go through internships and they learn a lot. I don't know how it happened for you. Did you graduate then did the apprenticeship or vice versa?
Yeah, I didn't graduate. Like actually, I was like almost gonna get like kicked out of school because I was missing too many classes. Because at the time I was working on like footwear for like brands like DC, Vans, Adidas, through like the retail store that I worked at, but also through like Justin Saunders, like an art director from Montreal, who obviously works for EA and has his own label, and with the help of like Vincent Sang from Montreal, also who does like the Dime label, the skate label. These guys really brought me on to like jump on larger projects early on, and I would this was my school, you know, like I was in the work environment, making money as well. And then when I was at school, you know, like even though it's like it was a good design school, it just wasn't really relevant for me. And I would gain way more from like being working under Justin, Virgil, Vince. Yeah. Then I did get like a more traditional job at Want, which is a luxury label from Montreal, started by two Jamaican brothers, Byron and Dexter Peer, which I learned a lot more how like kind of like a company works. But these guys really trusted me to just do a lot of things for the brand, which was amazing. But truly learning early on by doing a lot of apprenticeship is how I built this portfolio like fairly early on, and how I was able to like get the tools to be able to do work for these larger brands and build these collections.
Apprenticeship is so relevant because even when you graduate from design school and then you go out there and you're doing an internship, you realize, oh wow, like you were in this bubble while you were in college or you're in the design school, and then you go out into the real world and it's like a different world and you're learning new things and it's more hands-on and it's amazing. So for you to have had it that way, I think yeah, you're sharp enough to, you know, you thought quickly and you did the right thing. And that's what I think that was what we most designers did back in the days, like years ago. It was mostly through apprenticeship, and I think it was working really well. And so you also published a piece last year called Total Design, I think. The article explained your
Total design.
Total Design, yes. The article explained your perspective on the crypto space, comparing it to arts and crafts movement. So how does integrating craft as a practice translate into Web3?
I think Web3 blockchain gives like the tools for provenance, which is like mind blowing as a designer to, or even as a designer, but even for, you know, like art directors that are building like fashion archives online and like mood boards and blogs, like they create provenance, you know, like someone will be one of the first one to post something. Like I think it goes with the technology, like inventing the technology is really, really good. But since there's a huge shift in technology, I think that there needs to be also like a shift in how we approach like make, and the purity and the solidity of like smart contracts and blockchain having provenance, proper redistribution, if like implemented, just brought me back to just craft, you know, like these contracts are so intricate, extremely well tested, can be like immutable. So the direct link in my head was I did the comparison with like, you know, the Silk Road. If you think about like the early blockchain, like Bitcoin, Silk Road for trading some illicit assets, but originally like the Silk Road was just to trade like silk and spices and other goods from like your region of expertise. And it's really about the quality of like the quality and the solidity of, let's say, blockchain and smart contracts. It's a direct like relation to the quality of work. And to me, that's just like craftsmanship, you know, like, I don't know how, when I first started reading into blockchain, I was really like, I took it from, even like the fabric weaving, you know, beginning with like people that work with like engineer knits, how unique of like, it's just a really specific type of knowledge. And that knowledge is like amazing and should be rewarded properly. Yeah, it's kind of it's super far away from someone who's currently in the Web3 space, but how I approached it when I first started reading these smart contract is really that, like someone who's extremely good at their work in some type of specific knowledge. Blockchain allows for like infinite collaboration with the people that are best in class, and you're able to give back value or even to like access their work super easily, permissionlessly support their work. So yeah, and it was a reaction to the crypto space, you know, kind of being very not being like, I think there was like a lack of research and everybody just doing like merch or like, you know, thinking about like collaborating with brands, which are like these giant megacorps, basically like the banks of like, you know, fashion. And it just really showed me that like the amount of real creatives or the amount of artists, designers that are familiar with blockchain or currently in Web3 is very small. So that actually got me super excited into like diving almost like 100% of my time into it. It's like, oh, there is like a lack of, I mean, there's a lack of diversity, but also like a lack of skill and knowledge from the art and design perspective. So there's a lot to build, but it's super exciting. And I guess it's like, it was a small reaction to this and kind of like want people to ask themselves the question, you know, if blockchain is about freeing the creators, proper redistribution of profits, provenance of work, of artwork, then why are some of these like billion-dollar protocols just doing like $3 t-shirts that like uses slave labor of like disenfranchised communities, you know? So it's also like in direct relationship to young designers that are going to come out of like CSM in the next years or other like universities, you know, they'll be stuck with this giant wall of like huge megacorp conglomerates that they have to like work for and donate their ideas almost for free for like multiple years before being able to create their brand. But even like if they want to create their own brand, they'll need some type of like funding mechanism, or most of the time we'll have to get like investors from these giant brands to own like half, if not more, of their companies. So it was kind of like, oh, there's like a clear solution here. And actually there's clear solutions, you know, like the possibilities are endless. And whenever I approach this, it's really like, I don't got the answers, you know, I'm just like figuring out and like we're testing out what works best, but we encourage everybody to like fork it, do your research. I think it's also like, it takes a lot of imagination to not directly fall into like a skeuomorphic way of thinking where you're just like applying whatever you think is happening currently and just doing it using blockchain. But it's a new set of tools, new set of tech. And I think there's different ways to approach it. I'm actually writing an essay right now on like fashion composability and like open sourcing like core assets, which is kind of like the continuation of this. And I mean, honestly, I can talk for hours about this.
Honestly, love it. Like there are so many good points that you make. Like, you know, you just mentioned the open source model, and that I'm just thinking about Virgil, how he open sources ideas, and he was always about, you know, creating your own brands and how giving resources to people. And there are so many things that blockchain can solve, like for example, supply management issues and also decentralization within the design space and manufacturing. So like local productions can be supported with this, or, you know, you can now lock into the community and say, okay, I'm supplying this material, I'm supplying these skills. Like, how can we, you know, fix these supply chain issues? And yeah, so I think you touched on a lot of great things.
And I will be looking forward to your essay. Hopefully it'll be out there for us to, you know, to access it.
100%. Like, I mean, I started writing because of Web3, weirdly enough. Like all these tech developers love to write essays, but it kind of makes it like a simple medium to run through these ideas. And it's like, I mean, we can keep going, you know, like the at first, like, you know, even everybody's trying to fix supply chain and, or fix this type of like centralization of profit and ownership. And a lot of these giant companies are also trying to fix it, but it's going to come from community first and from designers first and from makers first and from creators first. Like that's how whatever platform they want to exist on and whatever platform they want to like play with. I'm super excited to get more like designers onboarded. Like what we're building is super cool. And
this is my next question, actually, so why do you see the need to create your own DAO, and what is the impact you hope to achieve, with Hibiscus DAO as a designer? And yeah, what is like the vision from Hibiscus DAO? We'd love to know that.
Surprisingly enough, like my approach with Web3 was really welcomed by some of my like favorite projects or like favorite like blockchain developers or smart contract developers, like everybody from like Steve Klebanoff to like Nicholas from Nouns. Like the biggest brains in the space really took on the ideas that I was pitching out into the world and like welcomed it. Meanwhile, they're the furthest away from fashion, whether a lot of people that like deemed to be like within the design space or the fashion space can really relate. So it was a bit like interesting at first, but my approach is really to build like Lego blocks and building blocks for designers to be able to like build upon way easier. I see a lot of what I think is really good about blockchain and like the current ecosystem for like DeFi and stuff like that is the best protocols are just building tools for other tools to build on and making it open source, making it accessible. I think that's kind of like the baseline for people to be able to create. I mean, obviously it's selfish because I also want to use it to create, but it's a need. And right now we're still fairly closed and secretive because that's like the good thing about fashion in a sense is like we're used to working 3-4 years in advance. So it's okay for like we want people to have like some type of trust in us. And also we want to show like best practices, like how we believe that like things should be done. But still like all the contracts will be open sourced. And we're also using some open source tools also like 0x splits and like my dev is like reviewing all the Zora contracts and stuff like that. So yeah, the goal is really to make building blocks that people can build with, but also we're curating some very exciting projects with some Web3 entities where we're like really pushing forward the idea of like collaboration on chain, from like patterns on chains to like prints being on chain and like one print or one artwork being used on 2 different pieces, but the provenance of the artwork being like the same person. So kind of like this composability of design and even like having it multi-brand, like maybe a designer has like the same artwork for 2 different brands, but it's okay and it's transparent, it's on chain. So yeah, we're doing that, but we're also building our own product 100% on chain, which is like, it's just like, it's just a bit mind blowing, but it's just so exciting. And I've been trying to convince a lot of my friends to, dive in. But I understand that it's like right now there's so much noise. It's really hard for fashion designers or for artists to like understand what this is. All they see is like a photo of a monkey. And even the way I communicate it now, I don't really talk about NFTs or like crypto. I just use like the terms blockchain and like provenance and ownership because I think that's way more attractive to them. But yeah, right now we're just kind of like the goal for the next year is just to show a small percentage of the possibilities and what can happen from a super purist point of view, but there's also from like almost like a community driven point of view.
I guess, yeah, we've talked a lot about, you've shared a lot about blockchain, and I like how you explain it and the words, your words of choice. I think it's definitely attractive. And so, you spoke a lot about like the physical aspect of designing. So it looks like, you do think a lot about the functional aspect of fashion, that it plays a role in terms of like the seasoning and keeping people warm and all that stuff. And you said a lot about like how you think about the concept of timeless, I guess, when you create. So I'm just wondering, have you thought about this idea of digital and this concept of maybe us adopting physical garments and wearing it like in our everyday life? Is that something you've thought about?
I still like, I mean, like from practice, I'm like a designer that's created a lot of like physical product, and like, you know, my goal is for it to be easy to wear every day. So I'm kind of like the furthest away from the digital aspect of it. But in the recent month, I would say I've been speaking to some people who are bringing a good idea on how to bring that digital aspect, you know, which I see it more like, let's say, owning a physical good can give you access to something digital, or can give you access to even like storage where like your favorite designer can like gift you something, or yeah, like make you access something early on. I have yet to really experience like any type of like AR or yeah, like wearable metaverse digital thing that truly makes sense. Like I think the concept is really nice, but I need to have more conversation with the people who are building it, because, you know, I think it's really good for people who don't have like able bodies, you know, like people who can't necessarily like wear a dress, you know, like I think this type of like advancement is super interesting for the metaverse. But right now I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like, I just feel like there's so much to build and fix for physical goods. It's kind of like not necessarily like an urgency. It's just like I love clothes, you know, like it's more than like, yeah, it's just that's like what I love doing. I love to make clothes. So and I love to wear them, and I love to see my friends wear it, and also strangers wear it, you know. So I think that's kind of like the focus. But I'd love to like discuss more with like different people building different digital tools that would link to the physical goods.
You said that the digital garments could be good for people who cannot like physically wear stuff. Were you referring to like maybe a handicapped person?
Like no one is talking about that in the space, you know, like no one's talking about how like wholesome can like physical like digital clothing be for like people with like body dysmorphia and things like that. And that's why I think there's like a lack of designers and a lack of like creatives in the space. It's just, it comes from a very like cis white able-bodied men approach, which is just way more interesting to build on, because there's like currently like one narrative. And yeah, I think these are super interesting points to bring in for the digital aspects. Like I'm not necessarily like super committed to work on that, but I know that some people are, and like I'm always down to like collaborate.
I guess there's this one narrative, because I think we touched on that a bit, where people tend to forget about the value or the reason why they got into something in the first place. You know, they just see someone doing something and then they're like, yeah, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to mint an NFT and I'm going to do that. But then they don't realize, you know, they don't think about the fact that this could be solving some problem, you know. And I think it's really great that you touched on it, and I'm excited that people are going to hear this and be inspired, since you're not committed to do it at this point. So who knows who's gonna see it. And
yeah, I'm sure there's way better people like way like more talented people that can work on that. And I hope that there are people like attacking these issues, you know, like even people that like can't go outside for some reason, you know, like the metaverse will allow them to do that and wear different clothes. Yeah.
I also like that you mentioned, you know, you really like the physical fabrics and like, you know, the design aspect. And I feel like that comes, like you can see from your work that it comes with like curation, it comes with different kind of things. For me personally, like I really like the idea of digital fashion and everything that it can do in terms of sustainability and all these different things. But I still feel like there's a need for refinement, like, because when I see it now, it kind of misses some kind of personal touch sometimes, or some aura. Like when you have a brand or a physical piece, you see like how much goes into it, and you can see that as well in the digital. But I feel like there needs to be like a connection between the two, or something that, you know, brings them together, or I don't know. But I saw I think Louis Vuitton did like a filter movement for their last show, and I think that was really cool because it's just like the idea of world expansion, world creation. I really like that. And yeah, so I'm wondering, what do you think are brands gonna do with these ideas? Like, are they gonna venture out? Are they gonna stay with their traditional ways, or how is it gonna change like the business models of the fashion industry?
I think some brands are gonna really put in the effort, like actually like our DAO is consulting for some like really big brands that are interested in doing it properly, and like the approach that we brought in is like, I think blockchain is really about community first. And if you just like present something to your community to just spend more money on and not be involved and not have any type of contribution and no transparency, that's kind of like, I think it's a model that's going to keep existing, like I'm not trying to reinvent nothing. We're just building new systems that like we're going to use and that some other brands are going to end up using. But, right now it's just like, like people just buying like an Adidas NFT or something like that, but meanwhile, there's probably like 10 people that worked on this NFT. Are they getting like ownership or distribution of the profits, this like super expensive NFT, so it's like, it is super interesting to see how they're going to jump in. I think that's when you'll really see like young new designers do the best work and lead by example. I think that's what we're going to try to do, or whatever contribution we bring to some of these brands that have been approaching us. We're really like standing firm and like holding the line on it being like community driven and having transparency. But yeah, I think that's kind of it. Like, I want to personally, like I want to be able to collect the work of the designers. If I like a brand, it's most probably because I love the designer, or I love the designers, or like the print person, or the textile development people. So yeah, it is an exciting time. Like truly, like what a time to be alive. But I am paying attention to what brands are doing, but I'm also like not, in the sense that like I'd rather just work on building best practices. And if some of them want to use it, let's do it. If not, I'm also cool with that. Like it's kind of like I need Adidas to do this for me to use it as an example. So it's like it's so new that people need to do things in certain ways. Like it's funny that like the Bored Apes community is hopping on with Adidas to do something, and like it's probably like financially successful, but like design wise, or like sportswear wise, like there's not really any type of like advancement, or like fashion wise, so it's kind of like really driven on like hype. And like I'm not really like a trendy person, or like follow like trends or stuff like that. I kind of just trust my gut and my friends and my team and like the people that I enjoy, and I just like build stuff. And honestly, I always trusted my gut and my instinct, and it never really disappointed. So
like you said, not jumping on the hype or the trend, and really being conscious about what you're building, having a long-term vision. That's also what we are doing at NewCoin. We come really from like this creation background, and we really care about creators and have a lot of different people, designers, entrepreneurs on, and it's really amazing to see. And we really want to just bring these tools to empower creators. And like you said, ownership and all these things, it's still like a really vague place that we are in right now. They call it decentralization, but is it all decentralized right now? We don't really know, so yeah, I'm excited to see where you guys are going to take it. And with HibiscusDAO, it's really exciting.
Same. I mean, it's hard to stay focused. There's so much to build. But shortly enough, we'll be like opening up more floodgates for people to like contribute and join, and build more. It's just really exciting. And like, I mean, I don't know how much time we got, but like recently I've been also exploring the whole aspect of like, there are Instagram accounts with like hundreds of thousands of followers that are like leading like fashion, or even like, Ao Ojo, who runs the fashion archive live stream is probably like the most relevant source for like fashion news. He's a genius, and like his live streams are like amazing, and he has so much intel. I feel like if it would just be like a token enabled live stream, then he'd be able to like reward his current supporters and like, you know, not have to work. And like, I know that he's in luxury, but you know, luxury is expensive, but he should be able to buy all these things because he brings so much values. You know, like I see people who are on that stream, you know, and I even know like people who are like switching their names, but I know they're like anonymous person on that stream. And it's like, there's a lot of people like paying attention, and the points that he brings all the time are amazing. Yeah, I'm a huge fan.
Honestly, I don't really watch anyone else but his channel, and maybe like sometimes Liz Foster is also a good channel to educate yourself with. And yeah, and these people really care about fashion, you know, about the art form. So yeah.
I wanted to add that it's really great to hear that like you don't follow trends, you trust your guts. And also I really like that. I think you're such a great example to all for people who want to get into the Web3 space but aren't necessarily ready to go all digital, you know, because sometimes when people think Web3 and think about Web3 and all the possibilities and the new technologies, I feel like it can be discouraging because it's like, well, I still want to design. I like to touch what I make and the craftsmanship and all of that. I mean, that's what they define as art or whatever. And so they feel like going full on digital is like limiting, right? And so it's really nice that you pretty much have falling down the rabbit hole. You're like deep down the rabbit hole because you're already even have your DAO and all that stuff, but you're still making physical clothes. And so that's quite admirable. And I think it allows people to see all the possibilities. It's not so limiting, right? That anything is possible.
That's really it. It's like anything is possible. It takes imagination. That's like the best tool. When designing physical goods, you know, like having a party and like having DJs, you know, making a community, like, I mean, just the idea of like making a full-fledged like fashion show, fashion community, like a product line. Yes, it's physical. Yes, it includes people, but it's still highly collaborative, highly collective, and highly digital in the sense that like your patterns will be digitized. You know, like you'll do like a lot of work using digital tools. So even if it's physical, it has high collective and like high digital assets, which both of these to me like scream blockchain, even if it's for physical goods. So it's just it's kind of like a no-brainer for me. And like I'm like ridiculously committed, but also like I have like the best support I could never ask for, and built like the craziest team in the past 6 months. And I'm also like excited to just release stuff so that like we can bring in more people, and like, you know, my friends can stop thinking I'm crazy for like wanting them to do like some stuff on chain and things like that.
What are you most excited about when it comes to Web3 communities and blockchains impact in the fashion industry, and what do you see in the ability to coordinate and co-create as a whole?
I would say like the most interesting driving force for me is this idea of like some type of like regenerative structure, you know, like a regenerative agriculture of like work, art, design, and like I'd say like material, in the sense that like with proper profit redistribution, you know, you will have like a 30-year-old pattern maker that won't have to create like every day, you know, like that will allow this person to create their next best work. You know, like I love to just like dive into interesting things, follow interesting artists, follow interesting designers. Like, I mean, eventually I become friends with them, but I love to see their new work. And I want them to be able to like produce their best new work. And I think this idea of like continuously finding a highly productive, cheap labor for design work, creative work, or like even like the making of product is just kind of boring, and like almost like it's designed to self-destruct. So like I'm just really excited for people to have like aligned incentives and to be able to create their next best new work and experiment, like have the freedom, the financial freedom to try out things. Like that's super exciting.
Yeah, I think that's really sums up well the benefits of a DAO and what it can enable for people to just show their best skills and come up with ideas, join different things, get into different projects and connect and not be tied to, like, say, one brand or one entity to have to do that, and they can explore their creativity and their skills and what they're best at, and I think that will serve humans the best in the end, and if we can find a way that we make design more sustainable and more interesting and evolving, but also, like you said, have the profits directed to the designers better and just have a more efficient way of doing all these things, then I think it's a great enhancement of what we can do as in this world, so yeah, I'm super excited.
And that's just like the first step, like DAOs allow you to coordinate funds, to just like coordinate funds to have a space and like assets like sewing machines that can be community owned, and then you can have workers not have to work at a factory where they're paid at like a minimum wage, they can work at this place without having like previous like monetary value to purchase a sewing machine, to purchase 100 sewing machines, like DAOs allow that to happen. And that's kind of like, when you think about it, it's next level. Even like I was talking with Eugene Angelo, who's designing some stuff for like our first smart contract, and he was trying to find like a Pantone book for textile dyeing colors, which is probably like a $5,000 book, and it was hard for him to find. Just making these physical like assets accessible to any designer, any young designer, is going to be just way more interesting, like getting in a lot more kind of like arbitrage from new designers having access to these tools.
Yeah, totally. And I think for me, one of the things or the aspects of the DAO that I like is the fact that you're like a community, you're all grounded in the same like vision, mission. And I just really love this like feedback thing. You can just like ask your community about something and throw ideas back and forth versus doing things your own by yourself and in your little corner. And I think this is one of the things people experience, artists experience with the Web2 platforms, where it's just quite one directional and the only incentive or whatever is just like a like or a heart or a comment, but you're in like this community and you all create together and build. I think that's powerful.
Yeah, that's part of the sense. It's like super overwhelming, like I had like one of my mentor like pass away in the past year, and like it did feel like I kind of like lost a lot of support. But like in Web3, literally there's people like that'll DM you and like, like in Vishnu, like the co-author of the white paper, like DM me on Discord, and it was like, yo, like I read your white paper, like that's just crazy, like let me like do you need help with anything? And I was like, yeah, like honestly, like I'm not a writer, but like if we can tweak it, like I'd love to like get you like on and like co-author it. Even on like funding mechanism, we have like legit like in the past 2 weeks, I've met with like probably like 3 of the biggest funds that like I was like listening podcasts about in the past year, and like some of them like obviously don't understand what we're building. It's cool because they're like finance bros, but like some of them will like understand, take the time and like propose the most like next level way of funding, where like they don't care about like short-term returns. All they want is like tools being built, freeing creators. It's kind of like overwhelming and next level. So yeah, like the silence and like the secretness is just because like we want to build things and like let them speak for ourselves. But I guess like overall on like Web3 communities and like building using blockchain, there's a lot of people that have been in it for a really long time that have huge experience from like the financial side, from the smart contract development side, from the community management side. And they'll come in and they'll like offer help, and that's just like kind of like the opposite of the current like product design or fashion realm.
Right. I think there was never a time where you could just meet your investors on Twitter or in a Discord. You know, I had that feeling yesterday where, you know, it's just human connection. And then, you know, somebody's a developer, somebody's an investor. Okay, you guys come together, you know, and there's common, like Salimi said, a shared vision and mission. And I think that hasn't been there before. So we are very excited to see where you're going and what is going to happen. And yeah, I want to ask you one last thing you want to share with the audience, you know, key takeaway, how they can maybe get involved in Web3.
I think the most like important thing, what I've learned is just think about something new, that like, think about how you would like blockchain to be implemented and just like come in and like build it, you know, like people will help you, and like you'll find people with aligned tastes and aligned incentives to hop on and build these things. And there's like financial infrastructures for to allow us. But yeah, like instead of just making a copy of something or something that's like that's already successful, come up with a new way of how you can use it, because the possibilities are infinite. And I do think it's like, imagine it. And I would say one last thing is like, try to always have this, like always think in like the opposite of like skeuomorphic ways, you know, like new ways of doing things. Kind of like as like a fashion designer, I always try to like find the balance between like existing and new, you know, like something that's familiar, but like with like a new fabric. And I think that's something that I brought into Web3 is like, okay, cool. Yeah. NFTs and like blockchain, crypto, whatever. But like, what about just using these as tools to make real clothes instead of like making like digital clothes, you know? So yeah, come up with your twist, be avant-garde, and like trust yourself. Like if you think it's super complicated, build it up, just make a diagram and then like post it on Merrell and like get going. Like I mean, yeah, I have like some friends that are building like this next level community based on like a sport, and like just by encouraging them to just build whatever they wanted, they're going to build like probably the most next level protocol. So it's super exciting.
I love that. It is super exciting. And I love that, you know, your last few words, I'd say be original, you know, and don't just follow trends. You set the trends and inspire others to do more. And we need this in Web3 because it's still evolving and we don't know where it's going to end. But I think if we all play our role, it's going to be something so beautiful, and it's going to benefit communities, societies, and the world at large. Thank you so much, Jeremy. We really loved this one. It was an amazing episode. We loved your energy, your wisdom, your background, and everything.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Anytime.
And I'm wondering if you could share your social platforms. Where can the audience follow you? Because I'm pretty sure they would love to follow you to see what you're up to.
I think Twitter is kind of like the best place to hear like my latest banter or like alpha leak. But yeah, TechSpec, Twitter, TechSpec_, and then like Hibiscus DAO. These are like the two platforms that like are kind of like speaking on when I'm working. Yeah.
Amazing. Can't wait to see more from you and can't wait to hear what's next with HibiscusDAO. Thank you guys all so much for being part of today's episode. If you guys want to get more involved also in our community, make sure to follow us on IG and Twitter. We are newcoin_NCO, and we also have a private Telegram group where we're going to put all of the information in the bio. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned to the next episode of NewForum. Thank you, Salimi, and thank you, Jeremy. And I love this conversation, so I can't wait to keep going. Yeah.
Thank you.